But I need you all to know that I literally wrote notes. Legitimately wrote notes. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pages worth of notes.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
To start this all off, though, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Semi-Bookish podcast. We have the president here.
Sure.
But before we get started to actually talking about what we're reading, I feel like we should get some janitorial stuff out of the way. And by janitorial stuff, I mean we should plug some of our events that are coming up.
Sure.
Tony has no idea what I'm talking about.
I mean, I know what you're talking about.
Kind of. So I think the first thing that everyone should know is that the 29th is coming up, which is Memorial Day, and we'll be closed. So,
yes.
For all our local girlies and boys at home and non-binary children that we have, we'll be closed. Don't come in. If you do, the doors will be locked and you won't be able to get in anyways. But, at least you took a nice walk outside.
If they try really, really hard, they can get in.
Don't give them that information.
Okay. Go have a grand Memorial Day. Don't break into a library.
But for teens, though, on the 25th, which is a Thursday, I believe.
Yes.
At 6:30, we're having an end of the school year party.
Yes, it's a pizza party.
It's a pizza party.
But you have to register.
And there's only one person registered right now.
We have someone registered?
There is a person that it looks like they might be registered. So, if you want to get in before, we get tens of thousands of people signing up for this nice, awesome pizza party, you should sign up.
You should.
Caveat, it is just pineapple. So
no. Ew.
Just keep that
as much as I would love that.
That's heathenish.
I'm not ordering for myself. I'm ordering for people who want.
But to kick off Pride Month, I feel like this is a great way to kick off Pride Month.
I agree.
We're having this really cool poet who's local to the area, comes from here, named Nen Ramirez.
Yes.
They wrote a book called All Women Are Born Wailing, which is about...
I believe one of our Semi-Bookish podcast people
knows them.
I know Nen very, very well. Nen is one of the best people in the entire world. So please, please, please come to the program and listen to them read.
You don't have to register. And afterwards, I don't know how to pronounce one of their names, but they're doing a panel with Inanencia Ramirez-Gorski and Nydia Moda. What?
Innocencia.
See, I knew I would butcher it. But they're doing a whole entire panel afterwards talking about writing against stereotypes, which is really cool. So, if you want to, June 3rd from 1 to 2:30 p.m., come out and join us.
Saturday, right?
Yep.
Yes. And then, summer reading's right around the corner. So if you want to kick it off here or at your local library, be sure to check our website and also, check your local library's websites.
That's true.
Now, let's actually get into the podcast. I'd like to know what everyone is reading and or playing. I know what Tony's playing.
You do know what Tony's playing.
And I feel like we should just start with that.
Going first?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I'm both on brand and on topic right now, I am reading the Tim Seeley run of Nightwing.
Ooh.
Because I just had a whole, I don't know, I wanted to read Nightwing stuff because that's why, because I'm watching Titans because...
You recommended that to me.
It's good.
I haven't watched it yet, but you did recommend it.
It's really good because of what they do. If you don't have any familiarity with the Teen Titans, either through comics, which I don't through comics because I just haven't gotten there yet, or through the show, the animated show, which I saw and loved, or through Young Justice, which for me is primo. It's the best.
Right.
What they do with those characters, like Starfire and Robin and
Jason,
Nightwing, all of those Titans characters, they head in the sort of CW dark drama avenue with them, which sounds like it wouldn't work. But it really works.
But it really works?
It's really interesting to see them play that. Particularly with Nightwing, it's not, I think people are more offended, or people were more offended about Nightwing than they had any right to be, because it's kind of no, the place where Nightwing is as a character is a place we don't really ever get to see him.
Yeah.
And I feel that he's sort of been unjustly, sanctified at that time. It's no, that kid would be angry, and he's not a kid anymore.
No,
and so,
he would fully have a whole entire
have some
thing.
issues, right? So, and also they're going the route of not making Bruce Wayne, a hero just because he's also Batman and sort of like questioning all those things. Barbara Gordon has a really nice entry in season 2. And so, yeah, Titans is fun, but I wanted to read some Nightwing stuff, so I started reading Tim Seeley's run of Nightwing. I really liked the second offering in that. Book 2, I guess we'll call it. I thought it was really, really good and very interesting and left off in an incredible cliffhanger. I think that book 3 I'm like halfway through book 3, hasn't done anything with that cliffhanger that I find all that interesting. But you know, I'm just going to read the whole run and see what I think of it. And then the other, so that's fandom number 1.
Fandom number 2.
The other fandom the game that I'm playing right now, obsessively, literally, is of course Jedi Survivor. It is the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, and it is miles better. And I loved Fallen Order. Yes, the spider thing deterred me, but the game itself, like the game mechanics of Fallen Order, I loved. But
really interesting.
But Survivor has, in terms of game mechanics, I think Survivor has improved upon all of the things that you could tell they were experimenting with Fallen Order. Like they wanted to make a game that did all the things that game does, but it's Survivor. It's like, okay, we already did that. Now let's make it better. And they did. And I'm flying through it because it's so much fun to play. One of our other coworkers played it in a week. So like, that's like,
we're not going to mention any names. We know who you are.
But it's that kind of thing. Like it's because it really is like that. It drives itself forward in a really nice.
I think it's really interesting
way,
too.
so.
You're playing on console.
Yeah.
The difference, so I know that the reaction in terms of how people have received it right now has gone from, so if you were on PC, you absolutely hated it on the first day because it was so poorly optimized
I heard about
PC.
That. Yeah.
That's why I haven't started playing it yet, because I was waiting for the patch that would come and fix those bugs to come out. Like, I had pre-ordered it.
Yeah.
Even though I knew for a fact, like, you shouldn't pre-order games technically. That's kind of like the rule for PC gaming, is you don't pre-order because it's going to be bad. Because usually when games are created, they're not really created for
the PC.
The PC, they're created for the console. So every time that a game is released, unless it's Cyberpunk,
in which they did the exact opposite and they paid a lot of money for it.
But like, then it like just, because it's so poorly optimized, a lot of PC players would be really like unsatisfied. So they, as a general rule amongst PC players, you do not pre-order, but I do anyways.
Sure.
Because I know for a fact, like, yes, there's going to be problems, and I know for a fact that they will fix it on that first day, but considering the wide range of specs and things for PCs, you cannot create a game that is perfect for all of them.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so
I never thought of it that way.
Like, for example, right now I have a 3080 in my computer for my graphics card. Right now, they're at the 40s, 4090, 4080, 4070 series cards, which are having a whole slew of issues all by themselves right now because there's a part of a whole new generation, and then they're starting the new series of motherboards and stuff that goes along. So all of that is brand new hardware, and all of that plus games coming out for that, but also trying to backtrack and make sure that people who have lower quality computers, I'm not saying that your computer's low quality, friends. What I'm saying is, like,
it's
not the top of the line.
Definitionally low quality.
But like the back end, you have to backtrack and you have to backlog all that. But with Xboxes and PlayStations, that hardware is just like finite.
Yeah.
You know for a fact, like, this is the specs of this item, and you know exactly what's going to be in it. Which I'm kind of jealous of console players about that, but at the same time, at the end,
a console.
No, but here's the thing: at the end of the day, all the console exclusive games come over to PC eventually, either by emulator or by them actually publishing it. So in the end, I will get it, but like, sometimes I just might have to wait a bit, and there's a whole entire fandom thing that goes along with that. But anyways, Grant, what are you reading and or playing, Mr. President?
I've been sleeping a lot. Kind of like our president.
So you have so you haven't been reading.
No. I'm technically reading Mexican Gothic by. Yeah, which is your staff pick, Aaron?
I'm going to traumatize everyone.
Who's the author? I can't remember.
Sylvia Moreno Garcia.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
And I'm like one chapter in, so I can.
I was gonna say
I cannot describe. How
I'm
I'm
rereading it. I'm a couple chapters in, but everyone that I've talked to so far has absolutely like adored it.
Yeah, there's one book left on the shelf.
There's one person who said that they didn't like it, but they like different types of books, so I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I'll explain what the premise is later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember, but go ahead.
Oh yeah. So that's what I'm reading. I'm watching. I don't know if I brought it up. I can't remember, but I'm watching Undone, which is on Amazon Prime. It's the next show from Blubbity 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 Blah, the guy who made BoJack Horseman.
Say less.
I know.
Adding it to my wish list.
Now.
Yeah, it's all rotoscoped, so it's got that very specific look to it.
Love that.
Okay, you realize that like the person who introduced me to rotoscope was the one and only Ralph Bakshi. Mm-hmm. So like I'm here for this.
Love rotoscoping.
Yeah. So it has a very unique feel, and it's got Bob Odenkirk in it. It's very trippy. There's lots of dimension, time hopping and stuff. I don't want to spoil it because it kind of unravels.
Sure. Okay.
But I recommend it. Is it as like instantly iconic as BoJack Horseman? No. But
but will it reach that status maybe one day?
Who knows?
I feel like you only get one of those in your life, your creative life.
Yeah. I wish we could do a BoJack episode. I've been thinking nonstop.
Listen, you have an episode that you have not picked yet.
If you guys would commit, I mean, you've seen it.
I've already seen BoJack.
But if you
how
commit
many
to watching
episodes do you want me to watch?
I don't know yet.
Pick your favorites.
Okay.
Send them to me. They're on Hulu, right? Wait.
They're on Netflix.
Netflix? Tell me which ones are your favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Make me watch them.
Sorry,
I
just found out that I have access to the Dungeons and Dragons movie because I have a Paramount Plus subscription on Amazon Prime.
It's already on streaming.
It's already on streaming. It comes out.
And actually today, available for streaming, the Super Mario Brothers movie is also available.
And then next month is when the 2 movies should come out physically. I should already know because I bought them.
Even though if you look on Amazon, they'll tell you that
it's December 31st.
December 31st. And I was like,
hello?
That's stupid. Why would you do that? But okay. Aaron.
Yes. I'm also reading Mexican Gothic, which I picked. So, for those who will be in or listen, y'all ain't gonna make it because it's way too close to when we release this episode. But we're doing our staff picks book club, and this month's pick is my pick. And I picked Mexican Gothic. So I'm rereading it briefly because I did read it at once before. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I like Gothic literature, and this scratches that itch because that's basically what it is. So essentially, you got your isolated mansions, you got your creepy, aristocratic people, you got your brave heroine who comes in and kind of saves everything, but everything always has a supernatural kind of twist to it.
Sure. Yeah.
But not in the super vampires or hardcore paranormal, hardcore monsters and fantasy type of supernatural twists.
Yeah.
It's more like your Edgar Allan Poe, I'm walking down and all of a sudden I just hear a noise and it's causing my brain to have this whole entire moment where I don't know if I'm hearing things or if it's inside and it's my conscious talking to me, and it's kind of like a metaphorical way of going is it all in my head? Is it all right in front of me? Am I hallucinating? What's going on? And so kind of this goes into it. It follows Naomi, who goes to the countryside. She goes to this giant mansion after receiving a letter from her cousin, and she goes out there to help her out after this frantic letter just appears at her, and a whole bunch of stuff happens. Everyone that I've suggested it to, surprisingly, has liked it, which is
nice.
To me surprising because I know that the style of writing and the fact that it's Gothic literature, slightly horror-esque, does not itch everyone's scratch. But surprisingly it has. But then again, everyone will read July's pick, which is Tender of the Flesh, and understand that mine is the precursor to that trauma that you're about to experience. Meanwhile, I'm playing and completely within today's topic. I'm playing Genshin Impact right now, again.
Yeah.
Because I still have to get through the third world country. Not the third world country, but like the third country in the game. To get to the current area, which is a Japanese-inspired land called Inazuma in the land.
Oh, that's cool.
So the premise of the game, for those who don't know, is you and your twin are these fallen stars that have traversed different planets and things, and you kind of are the balance. There's like a whole bunch of extra context and lore that goes into it. Mm-hmm. But you guys are leaving, and this unknown god comes in and kidnaps your twin. Like, you are with your twin.
Okay.
Like, and you guys are, like, always together. Your twin has been kidnapped, and then you get, like, forced out. Your power is taken from you. You are forced into a random area in this world, and you have none of your powers. You don't know where your twin is. You don't know how to get them back. So you have to somehow connect with all these different countries because they have these things called archons, which is essentially their gods.
Oh, sure.
And you have to connect with all the different archons to figure out, hey, have you seen my sibling? Is there a way that you can help me get them back?
Ah.
Turns out, spoiler alert, but granted, this thing has been out since COVID, so, you know, everyone who's already, like, in the game has already, like, noted this part. And if you haven't, it's been, like, 3 years, get with the program. But, your sibling has been, was kidnapped and sent, like, 500 years into the past. And you guys are immortal, by the way, so, like, this is fine. You guys are all still the same age.
Yeah.
And they were raised in the same world under a completely different regime and, like, a completely different experience. And they are considered the evil characters, or the leader of the evil characters of that area. Mm. So, like, you not only have to confront your sibling, but you have to figure out a way that you guys can reunite. But your sibling is saying you have to go through this journey alone by yourself. And you don't know what they mean. Well, I do kind of. There's like a lot.
Okay.
But you're in Inazuma, which is the third world. You're trying to connect with the Archon, the god. And the god turns around and has this vision hunt decree, so everyone has their special powers are given to them, and they're called visions. And the god is like, no, I want everything to be eternal, which means everybody who gets a vision isn't eternal because it's not eternally exactly how they want it. So they're trying to steal everyone's visions. And so all of a sudden you're there and you're like, well, I guess we got to stop it now, even though you didn't want to. But they were like, here you go, you can do it anyways. So I'm with the Resistance right now, a la like Star Wars-esque type Resistance.
Okay.
And one of the characters who's a complete side character is with me right now, and I absolutely adore them, but I know their fate because I've already Googled it, / I saw it on TikTok 3 months ago. I know what they're like. And I'm kind of upset, but I'll work through it anyways.
Well, yeah.
But, on the topic of working through things, did you know that the term fandom was originally described for baseball fans?
So is that you telling everyone what the topic is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is this our third annual fandom?
This is the third annual fandom cast,
second?
like Nerdcast.
Not really. It's a third annual Nerdcast, but
Because first time was Star Wars.
The second time was Star
times
Wars.
was Star Wars. I think we branched off a little bit in the second one because we had
Tim from Red Raptor.
Yeah, from Red Raptor. So we did.
But now we're expanding it even further, and we're going to be talking about fandoms.
So it was It was for baseball fans?
Yeah, so the original term actually, so fanatic is fandom specifically comes from describing baseball fans.
Okay.
However, the term fandom comes from like fanatic, which was a term that was coined. Christian's gonna love me for this, by the way. Was coined back in like Old English, like back in like the 1500s, and it was described for religious people who were really into like their religion, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
But it was not used for actual fandom as we use it today. It was used for sports fans.
Because they have sort of like a quasi-religious observance of. Well, that makes sense. If you've ever talked to anyone who is a baseball fan, it makes sense. I would say baseball fans are even more reverent than football fans.
It was initially coined as a negative term because it was used to
sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, today, technically, if you really, really want to think about it, depending on the context in which you use the word, it is still technically negative.
I was gonna make a joke about how sports fans are dumb, and like put it together makes Fandom. But I thought that might be a little
honestly though, because there was I've heard Brandon Sanderson say this a few times on one of his podcasts, and he actually recently and I haven't listened to the episode yet, but he recently had an episode called "Sports Fans Are Nerds Too," because he's been saying this forever. Like he has a position where he feels very strongly about the fact that
they are a
fans
fandom.
have a problem. Fans in general have this problem where they will pick on other fans for being fans, which is dumb because it's like you're a fan of the thing that you love.
Yes.
So why are you going to pick on someone
This
else
is
for
a
the
call out
thing
for
that
every
they
single
love?
sports fan on the planet. I hate to break it to you, but those teenage girls that you're calling fans, like kind of negatively when they talk about their favorite fandom, congrats, you're also a fandom.
But
you just don't want to call yourselves that.
But it goes the other way around, you know. Star Wars fans,
No, it does it both ways.
Don't get no credits for picking on, you know, the sports people.
I was joking. I don't think sports fans are.
I'm not a sports ball person.
Neither am I.
And I'm okay with that. Just like I'm okay with the fact that there are people out there who actually don't care how George Lucas drafted the original trilogy.
As long as they realize that
it's amazing and superior to all of the things. Yes.
Well, yeah.
Sorry.
As long as sports people realize that us being able to rattle off the names of various alien species and stuff,
it's just like them trying to rattle off the names of every single player on their team, on their fantasy football team.
Amount of points that they got in said
every
game.
single stat.
How on earth do you know that?
Yeah, exactly.
I
agree.
was reading a Bustle article like just before this episode, and they were talking about like fandom. The term is like fan as in like a fanatic, but dumb as in like kingdom.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So it's basically a region controlled by fans, is how they described it on the Bustle article.
Oh.
So their domain, kind of?
Yeah, so it's like your domain, which I find is really interesting.
Interesting. So, okay, that leads me into a question for both of you.
Oh no, I'm scared.
The answer is
For all
yes.
three of us.
I'm terrified.
But, okay, so in that sense then, do you think that it is... That's not do you think. What do you think about gatekeeping in fandom? Because if you take that it doesn't mean that Bustle is right, but I'm interested. No. I think that they're onto something.
They are onto something.
You know, all kingdoms have gates, and all gates are guarded.
I think there's
Homeland Security.
I think there's a very thin line between quality control and true gatekeeping. Like, just keep, you know.
What do you mean by that?
Like, okay, so
I have words.
Okay.
I'm curious.
Like, obviously, a fandom should allow anybody in.
Why?
Because it's good to do that. Because the more the merrier. I mean, you should.
Because it adds a different bunch of ideas into the fandom, which then you could use to create either creative works, or then you can turn around and you can have discussion on lore and things and get a new perspective on how things run.
I also sympathize with the old guard, so to speak, that have been there from the beginning, and there is a certain essence, I guess, that they may want to preserve, but it really depends on the situation.
I feel like we have to, if we're going to talk about like gatekeeping or fandom gatekeeping or anything that's like that, or like old guard, I feel like we should not do that right this very second, but like there should be define, like, because there's a difference between going, oh, your shirt's a Metallica shirt, I need you to list every single name, which is something that like you see often and or is used as an example.
Oh, so you're wearing a Metallica shirt.
I'm wearing a Metallica
in order to
shirt.
Wear that Metallica shirt, I need for you to name every album that Metallica came out with and what year they came in.
You should know like three songs. This is
like your normal, like, I feel like this is like your normal.
You're the part-time night guard. Is that what you're saying?
I feel like this comes from like the whole women like thing on my end over here. It's like I picked up a Metallica shirt from Walmart because I thought it was cool, or like a thrift store, and it's just a giant t-shirt. And like, let's say I'm just wearing it to the gym, or it might be my boyfriend's t-shirt if I have one, or my girlfriend's.
Sure, yeah.
I might not know every single thing, but as soon as somebody comes up to me and goes like, yo, you're wearing this shirt, I bet you can't even name all these things, and I'm like, I just wanted to wear the shirt.
No, if anybody actually comes up to somebody in public and does that,
there's like a difference between that and then going, oh, you're saying something that you probably shouldn't say within the fandom, which I can get to later. I have examples.
I think that's an
It's a difference between that and then turning around and all of a sudden you have a part of your fandom that's gatekeeping a character specifically because they're small, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, they're minor coded because they're short, but the character drinks heavily. So you're like, I don't know where you're getting at. So then all of a sudden they call other characters short because they use the same, minors, because they use the same model. Like, that's a different type of gatekeeping than, like...
I thought you said Meyer coded.
Meyer coded.
I was very
Absolutely.
confused.
We go out to Meyer.
I thought the same thing, and I was like,
No,
what?
That's an actual example of drama, by the way, in a fandom. It's something that's actually happened in fandom.
But I think that's interesting to compare.
You have to, when you're talking about gatekeeping, you really have to, have that distinction of, what do you mean by it? Because, in fandom, there's a difference between, hard line, gatekeeping, and then there's a difference between, turning around and going, okay, that's your headcanon, but please don't police everyone else in the group and try to oust people out just based on your opinion.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that I find is so interesting about gatekeeping is that you're not. I think it's a double-edged thing.
It is a very double-edged sword.
You have the people entering in, and I don't care. Listen, I don't care what anybody has to say. I like what I like. Okay. All y'all little Batman people who've read all the comics and try to tell me who my Batman is, be gone with you. I know who my Batman is, and I've known since I was 8 years old. Get out my face. I don't want to hear it. You're wrong about Joker too. Next. I don't have a problem smack talking gatekeepers. So I'm like, no, boo-boo. Batman is an American icon, which means I don't have to read every comic from 1939 all the way until it's actually 1940, but from 1940 all the way till now. And I'm not gonna, because guess what? He's not actually really well written in comics. I keep trying, and it's just not. There's too much.
It's not there.
There's so much glut. There's so much glut within that particular. I can't say comics in general. I'm not going to say that in general. But within the Batman universe, because it's been since 1940. So that amount of just comic book work.
I also think
is
that
what? So the idea that people can't recognize dross within their own community sometimes.
I also think
is
that
annoying.
You're onto something especially because every single time they change a writer, you essentially just have a new Batman.
But
it's a completely different.
But that's the whole point, and I think that's the thing about fandom that can be really exhausting, is the fact that people don't recognize that the thing that they are a fan of is huge and is not about them. This is not your personal relationship with a product or an art form or a piece of media or whatever it is does not define how everyone engages with that thing. It just it doesn't matter that you've seen every piece of Star Wars content or read every single Star Wars book that ever came out. The point is, you loved what you loved and you hated what you hated, and that's okay. And someone else loved exactly all of the things that you hated and hated all the things that you loved.
Speaking of
that's what I mean by gatekeeping.
I promised a certain person upstairs that I would mention this one specific fandom. So, when I mention things that traumatize us in terms of fandom, do you know what traumatizes me? Especially because I was there. The Super Hulak fandom.
I'm sorry, what?
Have you ever heard of them?
No.
So the Super Hulak fandom is a combination of 3 different fandoms in one.
Okay, so Doctor Who,
Sherlock,
and
Supernatural.
Why is Supernatural involved?
Because at the time, it was part of the big 3 of the shows that were very popular on Tumblr at the time. This is 2012-ish, and it was quite literally a thing where they turned around, and it was the fans from all 3 groups, and they had all come together, and they had made one giant conglomerate. And at this time, Harry Potter was dying because the last movie had come out maybe a couple years before that. So they're dying. The fandom for Harry Potter was dying at this point.
I mean,
not really, but like in terms of like
it wasn't as prominent. Yeah, that's fair.
Like, yes, you had the Marauders fandom, which is a whole different like monstrosity, by the way, listeners, if you're trying to figure out like what kind of fandoms are
I'm curious.
out there. The Marauders fandom is a whole entire fandom that's dedicated to Harry Potter's parents and the time frame before
that whole generation, yeah.
That whole generation. And
James and Sirius.
And we turn around and we take fans in that fandom, turn around and they take everything that is canon and they have thrown it out the window and essentially created their whole entire fanon based on like the characters that were alive at that time and their context. They have complete face claims for every single character. They have complete storylines for all of these characters.
I love.
It's insane. Yes, Grant.
What does face claim mean?
Face claim? Oh, we want to hear some random terms.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question.
Face claim. So, in terms of characters, so with the Marauders, I'm going to use them as a specific example. So the Marauders, we know what they look like when they're older because we have not only descriptions of them in the books, but we also have the actual actors that we can use as a basis.
We know what they look like.
And some illustrations.
Younger, too, because Harry has flashbacks.
So face claims are essentially, especially in like more fanon works, and fanon is canon, for those who do not know, is events that actually occurred in the source material. Yeah. Fanon is fan-created events, ideas, materials that can be inferred or taken from the source material, but it might not actually be
or it's
correct.
Just made up.
Exactly.
Which is fun.
It's fantastic, but face claims are a part of fanon where we essentially turn around and we take like Sirius Black. We want to be able to, especially if we're doing role play or like we make gifts or we make storylines with a character, we want to be able to visualize not only from the description that was given to us, but we want to visibly see it. So we look for actors who might look similar to those characters, and that is where you get a face claim. So a face claim is an actor that is assigned to a character to be able to visibly look at something. And this helps in terms of creating fan works, such as fan art or fan videos, where they take that information and they transfer it over. So, for example, in the Marauders fandom, it's usually Aaron Taylor, who's the guy from Angus Thongs and Perfect Snogging or whatever it is.
Oh, I know
the movie.
Yeah, Aaron Taylor.
He's James Potter. Andrew Garfield is Remus Lupin, and then they have Ben Barnes as Sirius Black. And this was like forever ago.
Ben Barnes is Sirius Black. That's, yeah, absolutely.
And they've actually embraced that. I think right now we have Louis Capaldi is Peter Pettigrew as the face claim. And it's
that makes no sense whatsoever.
It has changed over the years. It has changed like actors over the years, but the three main ones that have stayed are Aaron Taylor.
But Peter Capaldi is like older than Timothy Spall.
Louis Capaldi. The singer.
Louis Capaldi. Okay.
So many names I don't know anything.
And
I was like, but Peter
Capaldi. The actress for Lily has changed over the years. I don't know who it is right now, but at one point it was Karen Gillian.
The redhead?
Yeah, the redhead from Doctor Who.
Oh.
And it used to be her.
For Lily?
At one point it was.
No.
And then they turned around and they changed it to somebody else, and then they changed it to somebody else. So to be honest, I have no idea who her current face claim is. But like, they change face claims every once in a while. And they bring characters who might have been minorly mentioned in either the Wikipedia, the lore, the Pottermore lore, just in general, who basically you never really see in the Potter books, but they exist. And they have made a whole entire thing based solely on that. But Super Hulock at that time,
yes,
bringing that back around, was the conglomeration or the consolidation of the Doctor Who fandom, the Sherlock fandom, and the Supernatural fandom, all three of which during the 2012, 2011, 2010 era of Tumblr, 2013, were really insanely popular. And so they turned around and they created a whole entire fanon based on those three pieces of works.
Is it a crossover?
They crossed it
Existing
over.
in the same universe.
Yeah, existing in the same universe.
That makes sense.
But
because you have Doctor
terrifying. it made them completely and utterly terrifying because they were the biggest thing on the internet at that time in terms of fandoms.
That's interesting.
To the point where they crashed the website of Tumblr and Twitter on an April 1st. Because they literally took a picture of Misha Collins from Supernatural and posted it everywhere onto everything.
They crashed Twitter?
Yeah. Granted, listen, they're not the first people to crash Twitter. K-pop fandom also crashed Twitter.
I mean, nowadays that wouldn't be so surprising.
However, K-pop fandom is a whole other monster all within itself because it's not K-pop fandom is the genre, but there's multiple things that go on within that because there's different subgroups because each band, each group has their own fandom specifically attended to them, so you always have infighting, and it never stops. Okay. However, they do fun and great things like the time that there was a certain rally for a red president at the time, and they turned around and they... not really getting political, but this is hilarious in my opinion. They turned around and requested tickets and made them believe that there were about 10,000 people that were going to attend the rally, and only about 2,000 people showed up.
That's funny. Okay, so question.
I have answers. As your local fandom human.
What is everyone's top fandom? Like the thing to which they feel they belong?
I was about to be like, are you going to ask me my OTP? Because I don't have one.
No. What's OTP?
One True Pairing.
There's so many.
I will expand upon that after I answer this question.
I know what one true pairing is, but no, like what's your biggest fandom? Like the thing that you just would attach yourself to over and above any other fandom.
Oh no.
I feel like this is an unfair question to ask, Grant.
This is an unfair question to ask me.
I've said it before. I've never really involved myself in the inner workings of any fandom.
Really?
Surprisingly enough, I don't talk any better online than I do in person. So,
so you're not like a person. Would you consider yourself not a part of any fandom then?
I like stuff, but I don't interact with other fans or anything. I don't. Yeah, I don't participate in the democracy, I guess.
Okay, no, some democracy. It's interesting. Okay, Aaron. Would you like to answer, or would you?
Yeah,
like
I'll answer. So when I was younger, you would have immediately put me in the Harry Potter fandom. Like that was my shtick. Mm-hmm. When I got older, or like around 2009-ish, that immediately switched over to the K-pop fandom.
Sure.
So for listeners at home, I've been a K-pop fan since like I was 14. So before it was even particularly popular over here, which I have a whole entire timeline I can give to people about the timeline of that.
K-pop over manga or anime?
To be honest, also within that time period is Naruto.
I was gonna say
I'm getting there. It's just if we're going with today's standards, K-pop is still kind of my thing. Like I'm less involved in fandom politics at this point because I've noticed, and this is something I can touch about later on a different episode, but there's a lot of toxicity that's being just kind of dealt around right now, and a lot of that can be traced back to a new wave of purity culture that's kind of coming through, and it's going through fandoms right now, which is surprising.
Interesting.
I could write a whole entire paper. It's kind of funky where basically instead of just letting people like write what they want, and then like if you don't like it, you don't read it, you just ignore them, or you just kind of go, hey, that's not really cool, we're not going to talk to you anymore, and just kind of ousting them. What instead comes in, and I don't know if this is like a social media, like Twitter changed everything kind of situation, but like all of a sudden now, like if there's something that's wrong with the fandom, or there's something wrong, or somebody does something wrong, it all becomes now a dog pile onto somebody and attacks them for that thing.
Interesting.
You can kind of, if you really want to, you could trace this back to Steven Universe era of things, which is a great show, by the way.
I've never seen it. I've heard it's good.
The show is great. Fandom, absolutely toxic. Do not want to deal with them whatsoever.
Really? That's so interesting.
At one point, there was a fandom artist they were quite young. They were like high school age, and I was in college when I witnessed this.
I think I heard about this.
And they had drawn one of the characters who is canonically kind of chubby.
Sure.
And they drew her in their own style, which was a little bit skinnier than what's being portrayed on the television screen, which is fine.
Yeah.
But instead of people just kind of ignoring it or going like, hey, we don't appreciate that you've done this, but we'll let you like post it for now because this is your work of art. This is your intellectual property at this point. They dogpiled and sent so much hate and harassed the person that she tried to unalive herself.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of something that has been brought into a lot of different fandoms where they're doing that, or they're really just hounding on creators of works to do things their way. And you see a lot of this in shipping wars now, where instead of like people just going at each other for shipping, which is something that like has been around for like ages.
Oh yeah. Forever.
They now just kind of like attack the creator of the piece. Like, for example, one of the most popular pairings in My Hero Academia is Izuku and Katsuki, who are two of the main boy characters of the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
There is no canon relationship between any of the characters in this whole entire manga. Like, this is like a shonen. There is no romance. Like, you've read a little bit of it, or like at least looked into it.
Yeah.
There's no canon romance in this at all. We don't even have canon like sexualities for these characters at all. And by the way,
is that typical for that kind of manga?
It depends.
It depends on which one you're talking about. But like, so far there's no canon like sexuality. But then again, these guys are teens and they're 14. So, like, I'm not really trying to assign anything on them in the first place, but that's the main pairing that everyone seems to.
Which I think may be a shortcoming on the writer, but that's
it is
neither here nor there.
He's already claimed he doesn't do romance very well.
Oh, well,
it's
okay. Well, in that case, I applaud him for just avoiding that.
Then turned around and attacked him because he hasn't really specified if those two characters are endgame together. And
The creator?
Yeah, they attacked the creator.
That boggles the mind.
No, they do this all the time, and this is like a current thing now, and I don't understand. And I feel like, am I old now? Am I too old for this?
It's as old as the day is long, and I'll tell you how I know this. I'm a Star Wars fan. We are the OG Let's Attack the Creator. But
it's like, it's even worse now because now we have Twitter, and you just at them on Twitter, and they just like, we're sending him all this stuff, and I'm like, hello? This is a human.
Yeah, but I also think that...
I think it's gotten worse, though, Tony.
I'm not going to say that.
No, specifically, I think
it's gotten worse, yeah.
I think we're in a climate where there's almost no room for uncertainty or ambiguity, or you need to spell
and
these
the
things
thing
out.
is, I really enjoyed that part about fandom, is the fact that we have... So, more positive note here as we get closer to the end of this episode. One of the more positive things that I like about fandom in general is the fact that when things are left, like, ambiguous, especially in, like, written works or, like, stuff you see on TV or in comics or just in general, it's got all this different, like, ambiguity that you can latch onto as a fan fiction writer or a fan fiction or a fan artist or a fan video creator, and you can grab onto that and go, oh, maybe they did this, and you can create a fan work this way, but somebody else can grab that exact same thing and go, well, maybe they did it another way, and you can find fan-created works, especially in Naruto, Harry Potter era, where they literally have, like, well, what if instead of him being taken by Dumbledore and staying with the Dursleys, what if Harry turned around and after he was brought to Diagon Alley by Hagrid, the goblins stopped him and went, hey, you have a lot of money because, supposedly the Potters are rich. You have a lot of money. We need to talk to you about your bank statements that we've been trying to get a hold of you for, like, the past, like, year and a half as you're getting closer to school age. And then Harry going, oh, well, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then setting a chain of motion, a completely separate set of events. Or, like, in Naruto, if, like, instead of Sasuke leaving, like, in the middle of the thing, what if they had caught him? Like, what type of events would have occurred after they had caught him? Like, what type of skills would he have learned?
Right, which of course is where fan fiction comes from.
Yeah, that's where fan fiction comes in. I think, like, that's the beauty of fandom, along with the fact that it brings people together who enjoy a material and enjoy discussing or sharing, ideas about it. Like,
yeah. I mean,
I kind of feel protective about fandom in general, like, as somebody who was so ingrained in it during my formative years. But at the same time, I can understand where, like, negative connotations come from.
I think that the toxicity that occurs in fandoms is overblown. I think that we give it way too much credit. And I think that of people who allow communities of this type and I think people who allow communities of this type to sway them so much that they're willing to ruin their own lives based on a group of people saying horrible things to you based on something that you've done to contribute to the fandom. I find that to be really, really suspect and maybe it's because I, as a human being, love my fandoms apart from everyone else. Like, I don't really care what... You know what I mean? Like,
I have a question.
Sure.
It's a loaded question, but do you think that whole entire, like, toxicity can be attributed to the fact that we're more... I don't really want to say it the way that I'm about to say it, but I will anyways. Do you think we can attribute it to the fact that over the course of the years, especially with our dependence on technology now and social media, we can't really tell, like, sarcasm, or we're really attached and addicted to the dopamine hits from social media in general, that it makes us a little bit more sensitive to the fact that a lot of people are saying this. Whereas before... If it's just written, like, out in a letter that I'm mailing out to George Lucas, like, he can literally just go, oh, okay, and just, like, toss it in the trash can. But if it's, like, on social media, it's there for a long time with digital footprints, meaning as soon as you open it, you just see, like, barrage after barrage after barrage where...
I think it's simpler than that. I think it has to do with the fact that because of the ways that technology has increased... and because of how accessible it all is, it's much easier for someone who doesn't have very much to have a social media footprint. Because all you need is to know where the library is.
Do you think
They're not going to charge you for your Twitter account.
Do you think
They're not going to charge you for a forum account. They're not going to charge. So if you have access to the source material itself, and then you have access to a computer with
or internet,
you could literally spend gobs of your time. You could spend all of your time participating within a fandom, and that's not how fandoms used to be. Like, when Star Trek and Star Wars and other fandoms were first starting, those things, science fiction, fantasy conventions, those things happened at convention halls, convention spaces. So you had to have a certain amount of either willingness or money to make it to those places. You had to have a certain kind of privilege. You had to have certain kinds of jobs to be able to have the free time and the ability to go for...
It was even like that with anime conventions, like in the early 2000s. I think... Do you think maybe... especially like with the pandemic and the fact that we were all inside and all we really had was social media, do you think that's kind of made it worse with the fact that we've now been overly reliant on it because that's the only social interaction we had for about a year and a half?
No, I mean, I think these are the excuses that people want to make for the ways in which our generation and
I just want to throw those questions out there into the ether.
Sort of respond to the world, but the world has always had these levels of toxicity in them.
I think now it's been just more brought to the forefront, and we're more aware that it's occurring because we can see it more often now.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you see this with sports fans all the time.
They win, and they're going to turn over a car and set it on fire.
You see this with rock and roll fans. Woodstock was notorious for having a huge, like, basically riot mosh pit thing happen. I mean,
more so Woodstock 99.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. So the point is that this happens in as many fandoms as you can point out. The reason it feels more toxic now is because fandoms are massive now in a way that they weren't before, because you don't have to have a life in order to, no, you really don't. Like, you don't have to have a life outside of the thing that you're doing a thing that you're a fan of, in order to participate. Whereas it used to be, in order to be a real baseball fan, you had to have access to ESPN, you had access to a stadium, you had to really have a job and some money and do something. And people who can maintain that kind of professionalism, but also be a football, baseball fan, Star Wars fan, whatever, on the side, they tend to be more balanced because you have to be in order to work in a professional capacity. We're seeing a lot of unbalance from a lot of people who lack balance because they don't have anything else going on. And of course they're going to throw a fit. Of course they're going to be hurt when they're dogpiled and not know how to deal with it. And so of course the only way to deal with it is getting rid of themselves off the planet. I'm not criticizing anyone.
No, that makes sense.
I mean, maybe I am a little bit, but I'm just saying that, like, I feel that the reason I don't feel so, like I have to care, like, for example, when Gotham Knights came out.
No.
I bought Gotham Knights for myself because I had played all of the other Arkham games. I'm a huge Batman fan. I'm a huge Arkham game fan. And so I was like, all right, I want to see what they do. And plus, they're fulfilling my dream. I want to play all of these characters. And they killed Batman in the prologue. So I was like, done. Absolutely. This is my thing. I read an IGN review.
I read all the reviews before it came out.
It was this, like, huge 9-page bad word I want to say. And it was just like bad-mouthing the game for all the reasons that no one who wants to play this game would ever care about. They're like, and I'm just like,
items, the gear inventory system looks like a mobile game, and I'm like, great.
Yeah, right.
I don't care.
Like, so
does
and
it function?
They're like, the story's not all that inventive, and I was like, neither is Arkham City. Like, you play it through once, and you're like, oh, that's it, okay. And no one can. Neither is Skyrim, and Skyrim is one of the most successful games of all time.
I literally bought
story
Gotham
is
Knights.
Stupid.
I literally bought Gotham Knights because I watched my friends play. Initially, I was not interested in Gotham Knights whatsoever. I watched them get it pre-ordered, and I watched them play like the first few nights of the game.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was cool. I thought I could learn how to play it very easily, and I was like, okay, sure, why not?
Right, and you don't have to, like, become a Batman fan in order to enjoy it. Or even as a Batman fan, I don't have to critique it on the same level that I would critique a comic or, you know, the most recent Batman movie.
I don't have to know a lot about Batman to be able to play this game, which is true because I don't know a lot about Batman anyway.
Which is the whole point. Like, that to me that's the whole joy of being a part of a fandom, is that you get to experience these things across different platforms, and the bigger fandom is, the more pieces of media you get. Like, the fact that we have this really cool Star Wars game comes from the fact that Star Wars games have been around for a long time, and there's a Star Wars game fandom, and there's a Star Wars movie fandom.
I'm going to interject and say I hate you for giving me this specific character.
So, yes. All right. We're going to do a death match.
Oh, death match.
Who do you have?
I have Spider-Man.
Grant has Spider-Man, and Aaron has
Severus Snape.
And
Listen,
Spider-Man has
timer for 1 minute. Go.
Spider-Man has the benefit of mobility.
Yeah,
I
but
would definitely say that.
here's the thing. Unless Spider-Man can take out the wand really, really fast, Severus Snape has the option of just kind of going like Levicorpus and like levitating him from the ceiling and being like, okay, goodbye.
That's true. Do we know how strong the web is? Could the web, if he's being levitated, could the web pull him out of the...
It depends. It depends on Levicorpus and where he... so here's the thing about Levicorpus in general, is Levicorpus can't do a person. Levicorpus does objects. So, for example, I could be levitating his web shooter by his hand and then just...
Then Peter Parker's stripping down.
That does depend on the Spider-Man that you use.
But either way, you could get the
because if Spider-Man's...
costume. Because you can levitate somebody by their clothes, which is... the other option that you have. So if he doesn't have the web shooter, a la Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, if you lift him up that way.
I still don't see how Snape wins the battle by levitating Spider-Man, who, by the way, has been levitated.
But listen.
Because if you
I'm going to go with Severus Snape's actual creation in the world, which is Sectum Sempra.
Yes.
Sectum Sempra.
What's that?
Sectum Sempra is where it cuts you open and you bleed to the unalive.
Yeah, but here's the thing about Spider-Man.
Yeah, but...
Spider-Man has automatic healing.
So...
Does he?
It depends on how fast the healing is for Spider-Man in that moment. So it depends on which Spider-Man.
It's not Wolverine fast, but it's
not Deadpool fast either.
It's not.
Are we talking like Chinese 100 cuts torture type thing where you're
have you not?
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, so basically it's just like gashes all over. I mean, it just starts cutting gashes all over you.
Mm-hmm.
Which, okay.
Or if he really wants to, one of the unforgivable curses.
One of the
unforgivable.
Snape never uses them.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, he does.
He
uses AK. He uses AK on the headmaster.
Okay, yeah, but that was planned.
So?
It was planned. You said
it was a death match.
I did say it was a death match.
It is a death match, which means he is capable.
Okay.
So if he catches him off guard, and if he's strong enough, we don't know if he's strong enough for wandless magic, but if he was, or if he has a potion.
Technically,
because Spider-Man can get rid of the wand pretty quickly, I'd say.
But if he also has a potion, because he is a potions master, so if he already knows that Spider-Man is there, he could already have stuff that's prepared.
It's up to Tony.
Think that Snape would have a hard time with Spider-Man.
I know he would, but I still had to fight it anyway.
I mean, I think it would be an interesting match. I don't know how easy it would be.
Peter Parker.
Because, well, yeah. Because I'm just saying, if Snape doesn't work fast enough and Spider-Man gets up close, all it takes is one good punch. I mean, or even just one good webbing, and it's just like, you web the wand hand, you web the rest of the guy, and it's like, nice seeing you, I'm gonna have lunch.
I do have to say, the next episode we have for Fandom, I feel like we should really just talk about Dead Dove, Do Not Eat, so I can traumatize everyone further.
Dead Dove?
Dead Dove, Do Not Eat.